Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Organisation and Community Scrutiny Panel. My name is Ivis Williams. I am your chair for today. Just remind members, please be advised that this meeting will be recorded and posted onto the Council's YouTube channel. Can all those who speak ensure you switch your microphone on before addressing the meeting, and remember to switch them off when you have finished speaking. Thank you. I'd like to bring your attention, it's been a while since we met, so I'd like to bring your attention, just as a reminder, that the new scrutiny report template clarifies our ability as a scrutiny panel, and we are able to make recommendation to the executive on any item being considered today. All recommendation will be published as an appendix to the report, and the Director and Cabinet members' response to the recommendation will be presented at the next meeting. These updates aim to enhance the transparency and the effectiveness of our scrutiny process. Thank you. Item number 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Matt Hartley, Councillor Asli Mohammed. Are there any other apologies? None? Item number 3, urgent business. There are no urgent business this evening. Item number 2, urgent business. Item number 3, declaration of interest. Does member have any personal or financial interest that they wish to declare? None. Item number 4, minutes of the last meetings. Members are requested to confirm as an accurate record of the minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of October. Are we happy to agree? Agree? Thank you. I'm just going to invite Debbie. So item number 5, we will have the customer services performance report. We're asked to consider the report and make recommendations to the executive if necessary. So if Debbie Conway could please, are you presenting alone or is it a double act? Double act. Thank you. So we'll have Debbie and Kit. Thank you. I am going to hand over to you, and if you could present, and then we'll come in with questions afterwards. Thank you.
So this is the report for customer service performance over the last, for last year. It doesn't cover the whole of the year. It covers a period of the year. I think it's the 1st of April to the 31st of March. So we've had quite a busy year in customer service. We've integrated another part of the organisation into customer service as we've taken on responsibility for repairs and investment phone calls that were previously at Birchmere. They've been integrated into our service. The interpretation service came in as well, but I'm not sure if we reported on that last time. I think that came in during the year as well. So we've presented the report and the performance across those times. Some things that we are particularly proud of, we received an accreditation to a customer service organisation, and the contact centre received a silver accreditation, and we are now using that information from that report to try and get ourselves to gold. We have procured and implemented a new alarm receiving centre for telecare. This has all been done as part of business as usual with the digital switchover that's happening, where we're having to change where BT are changing all of our telephone lines from copper-based telephone lines to voice over IP, meant that we had to change our alarm receiving centre to a digital one, and also change most of the alarms that were out there in the borough supporting our clients, and that's something that we've done as well. The one thing that we are quite proud of as well is that when the responsive repairs department came over to us, we were able to make a significant saving to that service by transferring people from from agency costs to fixed term contracts, saving approximately 60,000 a year whilst improving the performance. We haven't made all of the improvements to the performance that we would like to make because we're still going through that process, but we're hoping that very, very shortly we will integrate that service fully into ours and be able to use the economies of scale that we receive as a result of that to improve the service, not only in responsive repairs, but in other areas of the contact centre as well.
Nice and short, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add? No. So I'll just want to say as well, well done for silver, and we're behind you going for gold. On that note, I'll open to questions. Councillor Saldin?
Yeah, thank you. So I had a couple of comments. Do you want me to do them one by one? They're quite detailed, so it might be better if I did them one question after the other, Chair. So the first one was on page 19 of the report. So first of all, congratulations on the Silver Award and actually all the stuff that you've achieved that comes across in the report. Page 19, as it appears in the agenda pack, it says some of our performance metrics have worsened in telephony service versus last year. I went through the numbers and I was trying to work out what had worsened and what hadn't. Is that something you provide more detail on?
Yeah, sure. If you look at the telephony performance, you'll see that our average time to answer has gone up from last year, and that is as a direct result of having fewer staff available on the contact centre because we're trying to support the council's medium-term financial strategy. I think that last year the average wait to answer was 2 minutes and 6 seconds. This year it was 6 minutes and 18 seconds.
Thank you. That was a lot easier to answer than I thought it was going to be. I obviously couldn't understand what I was looking at when I saw all the charts. The second question was around the telecare systems, in particular the Bexley and Bromley offerings that we're doing. What I was really after was some view on the costs that we are offering them in terms of the number of users of the telecare system that we're monitoring versus the cost we're charging that versus our costs. And that's the first part of the question, is are they comparable? And I suspect they may be. The other thing I wanted to ask about is we carry an overhead in terms of chief officers and people outside the department. So in terms of our fixed overhead, how are we covering that? And are we charging a admin and management fee on that? Because we'd be incurring those costs internally. And I just want to make sure that, we are recovering our costs effectively as opposed to cross-subsidising other councils.
We're definitely not cross-subsidising other councils. The Bromley offer particularly, we didn't actually need to have any more staff in order to be able to take their calls. So the profit that we get from that is everything that they pay us is pure profit. With the Bexley offer, there is I was trying to work this out before I came over because I thought I might be asked this question. I think it's about £8,000 a month that we are making as a result of doing the response for Bromley. And I've just negotiated with them today to put that up by another £4,500 a month to pay us. So that will increase our profits. But although I do need to take on one extra member of staff in order to make sure that we are fully robust in that service. The other thing that we're doing is we're actually going to be using some of their staff to support our service as well, so that historically it's quite a difficult service to cover, as is out of hours, because if somebody goes sick, there's no meat on the bones to just have somebody else take over. So sometimes we do have to call people in at short notice, but because we've got the Bexley staff now who are able to respond in our area, we've got that extra bit of robustness without having to necessarily call people in at short notice.
Just be clear, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So you're saying from taking on that contract, that responsibility, we had the capacity to do that and it didn't cost us anything more. Surely it cost us in time, so as a result of that service, is there any slippage?
So we took the Bromley call, so the monitoring centre, the minimum people that you need in a monitoring centre is 3 people. We always try to have 4, even before we took on the calls for Bromley. So we were able to absorb those calls within the current staffing structure, and we charge them about £70,000 a year. So that's, as I say, that's just pure profit. We can handle their calls without any additional staff. With the Bexley offer, it's slightly different because we can't respond in 2 areas at the same time without additional staff. So we did take some staff from Bexley. Initially, we took those staff and we got some agency staff as well, which is fully covered by the amount they pay us. But recently, in order to save a little bit of extra money and because they've extended the contract. Initially, it was only for a very short period of time, for 6 months. Now they've extended the contract for another 6 months, and I pointed out to them that really we needed more staff and therefore more money. We've also transferred those staff over to fixed-term contracts to save on the agency costs as well. And we will be, as I say, taking on one more member of staff, but we'll be using those staff effectively to subsidise some of our service so that we're more robust.
That was it. My last question. You may not be able to answer this. I believe we've introduced a charge for telecare within the borough.
The charge was introduced in 2020. There's always been a charge for telecare, but historically anybody who was in receipt of housing benefit was able to not pay under the Supporting People protocols. The funding for that ran out years ago, but we didn't start to charge anybody. In September 2020, in early 2020, Health and Adult Services did a review of all of their charges, and they said that telecare, everybody who had telecare had to pay £6. We are moving We are moving to a new service for telecare. So telecare will be sort of evolving to provide the same level of service it does now, but with a much more enhanced offer, which will further support health and adult services. Some of those connections that we have to that service, depending on what alarm system they have, will still be chargeable. Some of them will be free, especially if they come through the NHS.
Thank you. Councillor Vandenberg.
I'm looking at the table on Fix My Street, and it might be that I don't really understand it. Perhaps this is me, but if 950 vehicles, abandoned vehicles, were reported, closed, I'd assume was dealt with. So it's quite a small proportion. Is there an issue with, A, have I understood this right, or am I not understanding it? And B, what's the interface you use with Fix My Street, and how do you work out whether it's been sorted or not?
As you can imagine, I'm so glad you've asked me that question. So Fix My Street is a service. It's an online app. It's not necessarily just belongs to Greenwich. Lots of other places use it as well. The issue is that whilst we have 950 records of abandoned vehicles, probably most of those are closed, but the service doesn't always close them when they do them. So if you look further down the list, sorry? It's a data issue. It is a data issue, yes. And without going around the borough and checking if those vehicles have gone, it's not something that I'm going to be able to resolve. So some of the, if you look down the list, some of them where, for instance, dead animals, you can see that that is a much higher figure that's resolved, and 99% of them are closed. The little sneaky bit of this is that some of these are closed automatically. I can provide the details of those that are closed automatically. I just tend not to in this report.
So this sort of ties up when I get casework where somebody says, I've reported this to Fix My Street and nothing's happened. And I'm not blaming you, because although I think your time would be beautifully spent wandering around the streets looking at those abandoned vehicles, it may not really be that good an idea. And I suppose that's what I'm talking about, the interface. I mean, what leverage have we got over this? Where do we stand with it?
No, I mean, it's a good question. So this is down to human action/inaction. And it's fair to say we work really closely with these services to try and get these data points to where we know that the reality is reflected by the data. And obviously, as you can see, it's just not there yet. So there's no huge blocker to it. It's just these are very busy operational teams, and sometimes, for very good reasons, they don't always close things so that we can reflect it in our statistics. It's just something where we just try and work on it incrementally. So this is better than it's been before, and we just keep working on it. At some point, we hope that this will totally marry up to reality. But, I mean, realistically, we're never going to quite get there. But we want to be a lot closer than this.
Can I come back in on Fix My Street? Because I was just here thinking, I think a few years ago, it was a manual process. So I think Joe asked about the integration. Is it now integrated, or is it literally running a spreadsheet or data from one system and keying it into our system? And are there plans to, with technology moving so swiftly, what are the plans to integrate those data in a real time?
Okay, so it is still a manual process. So you actually have to go in to Fix My Street to close it. We can't close it from our systems. It doesn't integrate with our systems at the moment. So when somebody goes and removes an abandoned vehicle, what would be lovely is if they could go into Fix My Street on a device there and then and close it and say that it's been resolved. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. And as we've sort of explained, some of the services just are not in a position to do that. With regard to how we're going to manage this in the future, we obviously are part of the digital team as well, and we do want to improve all of these services and all of these channels that customers can contact us by. So we've got somebody who does work very closely with Fix My Street, and we can have a look at that, but I don't think it's going to be a short, easy answer. And just coming back, Joe, with regards to casework, there's a casework review going on, and we will be working very closely, and hopefully we will be able to resolve some of these things, and some of that casework will actually support the work that we can do moving forward with Fix My Street.
Just going back to the Fix My Street then, because, you know, I'd much rather that people reported stuff on Fix My Street and didn't bother me, because some of this is really simple in that it should just be done. Is there anything, the Chair talked about, you know, recommendations. Is there anything that we could recommend that would help you in getting these things closed better, knowing when they're really closed? Anything we could put forward that might be helpful?
I'd kind of have to ask the people that manage this service for me, because we are able to do quite a lot. As I said, we're able to put things in place whereby things are closed automatically. What we haven't been able to do is manage it so that the services are able to do it. But I mean, we can certainly have a look at that and report back to panel.
Yeah, I think recommendation about joining up between customer services and operational services, I think that would be strong. It gives us a nice hook to hold us to account for doing that. So yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle.
Yeah, can I ask, of all the services you provide, which one worries you the most, and what is it that you're going to be focusing on this year?
I worry about lots of different things in lots of ways. So the telecare service concerns me the most because that has such a direct impact on the people of the borough that have that service. That said, the team that I have doing that are very, very committed. We've just done some work where we've said that we are moving that service to it's going to be called the Digital Health and Care Technology Greenwich service. And we're hoping that some of the staff, they certainly are coming along with us at the start, are coming in to do that. So that service worries me because if something goes wrong, it can badly, badly go wrong. The services that I would like to get improved for various reasons, I would like to improve the customer service performance because I want to get us out of that thing of, oh, when you ring the council, it takes forever to phone. One thing that we have done, which we did as a result of the previous customer service strategy, we're due to write a new one this year, is our contact centre is open now between 8 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So we've extended the opening hours of that. So if people do choose to ring us sort of earlier in the day, 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9, they're getting straight through. So people are coming straight through and getting answered immediately, as they do after about 5 o'clock. And strangely on Thursday afternoons, I don't know why. So that worries me for another reason. And out of hours always, because customers ringing out of hours is one thing, but sometimes we're dealing with quite major issues out of hours. So we have, we're all on a sort of rota to be called out at any time, but the telecare service is the one that, if we lose that service, it's the hugest impact, and that is the one that keeps us awake at night.
Thank you. Any other question? I just, whilst they're thinking, in terms of the Woolwich Centre, on numbers, I don't know the size, I've not been there, so I just want to know the size of that team, because it seemed they're very effective, and I just want to know what they're doing good that we are not doing here in the Woolwich Centre, and in terms of the Eltham Centre. Their performance is really good. They've good customer service. Not saying it's not at the Woolwich Centre, but I just wanted to know maybe the size of the team and the number of footfall in that building compared to the Woolwich Centre. Are we short-staffed here? Is that the reason? I just want to understand better the two centres, please.
So the team that are at the Eltham Centre are fed from the main customer service. So I've got about 180 staff when I'm fully staffed. And if you take away the telecare team, the mobility team and the interpretation team, we have 75 customer service agents, and then there's management on top of that. We do send people every day to the Eltham Centre. The difference in the Eltham Centre and the Woolwich Centre is that housing is not offered at the Eltham Centre as a service. So we get a lot more people come in, and even though if somebody did go to the Eltham Centre because they needed support to fill in a housing form, we would support them in filling that in, but generally speaking, people will come here. So that's a service that we offer here, where we'll help customers complete a housing form online. We also only tend to do sign-ups and terminations here, although if a customer did need to do an Eltham, of course we would do it. Tenancy sign-ups. So it's just been historically a busier centre, and the Eltham Centre just doesn't have that level of numbers. So last year we had 3,052 customers in the Eltham Centre compared to 23,714 in the Woolwich Centre. And when you look at the housing inclusion numbers, we need to add them onto our numbers because we see all those people first as well. So that's probably why. It's always been the same.
Thank you. Just wanted to understand the ratio, that's all. Thank you. Yeah. There are no other questions on this item, but I want to put forward the recommendation. I wanted to put forward two recommendations. I wanted to take on board what Joe said about the Fix My Street, and maybe if the data isn't talking to each other, but maybe if we can report on that better in the next report. And then the one you mentioned, Kit, about joining up the operational side with the customer services side. So those are the two things I'd like to put forward.
Thank you.
And if members are happy, I'll move on to the next. Item number 6, digital strategy. Kit will be presenting again for us to consider and make recommendations if there are any. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Without going exhaustively through this report, it's quite a well-timed committee tonight because we're just a few weeks away from the expiry of our first digital strategy, which I think I wrote in a fever dream in summer of 2020, and it somehow we managed to get it published after the pandemic. So we published that strategy in February 2021, and then the life cycle of that strategy starts in April of that year. So we're coming to the end of that first strategy. So it's really timely to be here, and I had the opportunity to basically give a summary of where we've been for the last 4 years, as well as directly answering the question of what we've been up to for the last year. So I've attempted to summarise that. It's, obviously we've done plenty of work, so it's quite a lengthy report. And then we've got a line on the investment that was made originally, and then finally just a bit of a teaser for the next strategy, which you will all be at liberty to see when it gets there. It's just in draft at the moment, but I'm happy to take any questions. I know it's quite wide-ranging, so happy to take questions along any of that.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to questions. Councillor van der Broek.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you're doing brilliant work, of course. And I just wondering, I'm not very good at the technical side of IT. I'm really up on sort of the user end, the end user, is it working for them? And in too many places where I don't think, you know, I think you're probably a bit more careful, but where, you know, a great bells and whistles new thing comes in, so you use it. I mean, I was talking to an officer recently who was talking about a piece of software that their team had been using pre-pandemic, wasn't good enough. During the pandemic, there was a real need to get something upgraded. They got something in a rush. It did not do what the people on the ground really needed it to do. So that will have cost quite a lot of money, both in sort of procuring it and in training people. And it lasted, you know, I'm glad it was got rid of, because it didn't do what it was meant to do. And now they've got a new one, which is actually quite an industry standard, or local government industry standard for their piece of work. And that's working well. And I suppose my concern is how much work is done with end users to ensure that new technology is actually going to deliver on the ground the stuff that they need it to. Can they run their standard Friday report? And if they can't, can they do something better? Obviously sometimes, but...
Thank you for that question. When you say end users, I mean, you mean internal, you know, staff? Yeah.
Yeah, internal, yeah.
Yeah, so it would be extremely rare that we would ever buy any technology not in partnership with a service. So I would say, obviously we've matured a lot over the last 4 years, but it's fair to say we are completely seamlessly in partnership with service. So a typical thing for us to do would be a market appraisal in partnership with the service. So they tell us what they want to do. We'll either help them write requirements document if it's standard kind of a tech procurement, or if there's a wider service design piece, we will help them see where technology fits in with their overall journey. So, you know, I think we do it well. I don't think we've bought much mad stuff since I've been at the helm. Hopefully, there's the odd mad thing that slips through, but, you know, we have good governance about that. And I'd say, you know, we have good, I would say services trust us now to work with them, not take over, but also not just, it's not a free-for-all either. I hope.
Thank you. With my finance hat on, because we're always talking about how to be more efficient, and there's a lot of talk, maybe today you've heard a lot in the news about better use of AI, and I don't know what we're doing internally in terms of training up staff, because I know that there are so many things already built into Microsoft that we could make better use of. You know, so I just wanted to know what we're doing on the training side to equip the team. I did see that the finance will be moving on to a new platform in April, finance team, and also just wondering if that will be finance talking to payroll, if that's a possibility. Just maybe you can tell us a little bit more. We don't have Damon here, but...
Okay, so your two questions I answer in reverse as always, because my memory goes backwards. So yes, we have just procured a new financial system, which is, we're really excited about that. We're on about a 15-month migration path, so by next May-ish we'll have that. And yes, it includes all of the modules that you might expect. So we're really hoping for a pretty seamless experience with that. I could overtalk and start talking about the other stuff we're doing on pavements. But yeah, again, my team is very much working seamlessly with finance colleagues to see through that procurement, but also we're going really, really whole hog on that one. So that's going right through to implementation, then running as well. So if it fails, you can blame me. Then on AI, we're doing quite a lot in that space. So your specific question was about training. We're just about to roll out Copilot training. It's starting next week, oddly enough. I didn't know you were about to ask that question, but what that does is help staff leverage the so-called free version of Copilot. It's not free, we just get it baked in with our license agreement. But we're going to help people make the best of that. Our expectation is that the main benefit of that will be marginal productivity gains. So basically, same officers will be able to do more stuff. there are obviously more profound potential uses of Copilot, which we're also exploring. So at the moment, our AI program is in 3 parts. One is a training one, which you just asked for. One is about better corporate tooling, and we're doing some experiments in that. And then there is a whole social care wing as well. So we're exploring transcription software for social care, and we've got a couple of different programs of work going on. Again, it's a partnership between us and HAS and Children's. So there's plenty happening in AI. It probably won't surprise you to know that it is firmly embedded in the new digital strategy. So there will be a lot to be heard. And also, while I'm talking about it, I think we all know the potential for AI is profound in any direction. It has deep-seated implications for the organisation, and we'll be thinking that through as well. So my team won't just be doing the technology part of it, we'll be thinking through, for example, the workforce elements, which is where your training and development comes in.
Councillor Saldin.
Thank you. And you've answered my AI question already. So first of all, congratulations on the website. It is considerably better than it has ever been. One of the things I did have a question about it was alternative spellings. So I typed in planning permission with 1 S rather than 2, and it took me to a whole load of other things, and then I corrected the spelling and it got me to where I needed to be. Do we have an ability to do alternative spellings for people like myself who can't spell permission? So that's one of the things. The other one was people generally interface with the council website and the council for 1 or 2 reasons. One is because they want information about something, and the other thing is they want to report an issue. Now, Councillor Vandenbroek's already mentioned the Fix My Street stuff. Would it be possible, and if you could take this as a recommendation, to make it, one of those things that I can actually report an issue on the website with a clearly labelled button that's easy to see? I have had a look and I can't see it. I'm quite observant despite not being able to spell, and that's one of the things. And lastly, my point was around the sign-offs at the end. So AI data centres storing emails has got a huge environmental cost. And I'm aware that when I look at that in terms of climate change, it says the report makes no contribution to the Greenwich Carbon Neutral Plan. What I'd like to do is, when we come back to see this next time, if we could have some idea of what we could do. I mean, certainly things like running large language models on current data center architectures is terrifyingly expensive in terms of energy costs. And also, it would be interesting for me is, next time you come back, you've mentioned large language models within this. It would be really interesting. I heard an interesting thing about small language models that a lot of organizations are using in order to tailor their responses to certain things. And someone demonstrated something to me in terms of some questions that we were asking, and it was just a really interesting thing. And also in terms of the way in which their energy saving can be done, I understand that can be quite significant. Thank you.
Love it. Okay, thank you for those. Great questions and wide-ranging. Alternative spellings I will have to take away. I don't know the details of how we do fuzzy matching at the back of our website, but I will go and check that out for you and come back. Thank you for saying about the website. There are 2 really profound things which you haven't missed because you just asked the question, but a lot of people miss about redoing a website. Firstly, we've reduced the average reading age of our website from, I want to say, 13 to about 9. The reason that's important is because it's absolutely vital that all of our residents have got equal access to service information, and we know that the average literacy age of adults is around 9 if you take everybody into account. So what we've done by revising all of the content on that website is make it much easier for people to access, regardless of who they are. I'm going to say 3 profound things now. That's the first one, and that's very meaningful to me. The second one is decluttering that website makes it easier to load if you don't have a smartphone. And we know that so many of our residents are digitally excluded. So if you don't have a smartphone, you're working on paid data, you are typically already poorer. The work we've done to make the website more accessible means that the page load is much easier, which means that people can do more with the same amount of data, which is a big deal. And the third thing is clearing up your content on a website, making your information accurate, fuzzy matching aside, means that when we start to do things like automation, chatbots, AI on top of that, it's going to be pulling up the right information for people. So there's a 3-fold benefit. I also think it looks beautiful, but that's separate. Reporting an issue, it will depend on the issue you're trying to report. We are working all the time on making it slicker for people to get from the information pages right through a transaction. So depending on where that is, please do hold us to account on that. If there's a recommendation about improving external transactions or something like that, I think, you know, it's good to hold our feet to the fire on that one. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it could just be as simple as adding a Fix My Street button on the front page. And perhaps making Fix My Street work slightly better on mobile devices as well. Though I don't know if that's something we can do. I know the Greenwich, no, we can't. Yeah, I frequently find myself turning my phone sideways because I've got something else on the side when I'm trying to do that.
Well, I mean, we didn't build Fix My Street. And if we had built it, it would be mobile responsive. Because that is a legal requirement on us to have an accessible website, which includes our, you know, not just the front page of the website. So, but it's good that you've pointed that. I didn't know that it wasn't mobile responsive, so I will take that away. In terms of having a Fix My Street button on the front page of the website, I've had a beautiful debate with Leader about this as well. It's very important that we be, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, it's important that we be evidence-driven in terms of why most residents contact us. And most people overwhelmingly are with us for money, social care or housing, and that's why those pieces of content are prioritised on the website. So it's not that that particular idea is bad, it's that we're very balanced in what we prioritise on the front page. The environmental cost, the carbon footprint of AI, it's not something that's particularly hit us just yet, but as you say, it undoubtedly will. It would be great to have a recommendation to go and look at the carbon footprint of our tech. It's something we've been meaning to do for quite a long time, and it just has never made it to the top of our to-do list. So I think now's a great time because then we can benchmark when we do start to leverage more AI because it is big. And then on the small language models, yep, absolutely. So we need to make sure that it's not really for the purposes of this committee, but when we talk to staff and when we think about GDPR and data security, we need to be very clear that when we're looking at large language models, so open large data sources like you would get in OpenAI, that we don't put any of our data in there, but that if we do want our own language models that we can train on our own content, which is more confidential, that we can do that as well. And we'll make sure that those two things are very separate.
Councillor Saldin.
Yeah, if we could consider those recommendations made, please, Chair. But yeah, just on terms of the energy, it wasn't necessarily just limited to AI. It's general data center performance and what we're using, as well as sustainability generally.
Yeah, a little bit of good news on that. I think it might be in the report, it might not be, because I think we did it last year. We closed a whole data center last year, so we consolidated all of our physical hosting, and we managed to close a whole data center, which has saved us a huge amount of energy, which is great. And we've consolidated our remaining physical hosting down by 80%. So we've shut one entirely, and the rest is 80% smaller. So that's really good. Potentially to be offset by new innovations, but we've done what we can.
One more question from Councillor
in which case, could we get that information, please? I'm also involved in our carbon neutral reporting with Councillor Cow, so that could actually be quite significant for us, and it's something quite tangible that I think we'll be able to put a number on, so that'd be a really great thing for us to be able to report. So if you could liaise with whoever's doing that now to make sure that gets counted as well.
Thank you. And also, Kate, as you're working on the new strategy, maybe some of the things discussed here tonight can feed into improving the, I know you want just lift what was there before and produce the same, but just if you could take some of those things into consideration as well. Are there any other questions on the digital strategy? Okay, Kathy, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you about the council tax online. To my shame, I didn't realise we could have paperless billing, and it saves £1 per bill. So how are we going to encourage sign up to do that, and how are you going to make me do it?
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, so I think I was the first to sign up because it's my team doing it. So I got them to send the email and they immediately signed up just to prove that it does work. So yeah, we've had to be a little bit careful about it actually. So you've been able to, as a resident for about 18 months now, get a digital bill. So I have used my council tax bill many times for proof of address for a number of things, so you can already print it out. This was a move to mean that we didn't send you a paper bill, which is where the cashable savings come in. We launched it in January, and we are almost immediately hitting year end. So we've been a little bit shy about it, I must say. So we've already got a couple of thousand properties signed up to that, which is great. We're going to just get the team through year end because this is very boring, but I'll say it anyway. The integration point with our back-end systems does not operate effectively under load because we didn't build it. And therefore, we have to make sure that we prioritise the main billing cycle, and then we'll push a little bit harder afterwards. But even through natural sign-ups, we've got a few thousand in, which is great.
Thank you. There are no other. You've got one more question.
I was just going to say,
that was the last one.
no, things like the digital bills as well, if that could be reported to the carbon neutral plan people, again, those are things that count.
Yeah, and if you want, we did the tree equivalent saving of some of this as well, which I can also provide you with. Not just council tax, that was across the board, but I can give you that.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Item number 7. We're going to invite, I think it's James Pack and Stuart Godfrey will be presenting. So we've been asked to consider the Electoral Service Annual Report and again, if possible, make recommendations. So we just want to welcome James, the head of the Electoral Services and Registrar, and Stuart Godfrey, the Assistant Director of Corporate and Central Services. So over to you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Hopefully you've had a chance to read my report. Probably of all the 20 plus years in electoral administration I've had, this has probably been the most busy that I have been in one single electoral year. We started with the normal annual canvass process, the audit of the register, moving into then the completion of the review of polling districts and polling places, and that is a statutory review, periodic review of all of the places where people go to vote and the areas around those where people, the polling districts which choose the areas where those people would go to vote. Implementing those as well, redrawing all of the maps and making sure everyone is correctly allocated to the right polling districts. We then moved into a unique election for us, a neighbourhood plan referendum in February, which was new to us and something that we did cross-boundary with Lewisham Council, and we delivered that successfully. Then we moved into the May elections for the Mayor of London and London Assembly, the GLA elections. A kind of a unique election for that post, because for the first time we had a first past the post electoral system, whereas before it had been a supplementary vote, but also most importantly it was manually counted, whereas before it had always been counted by electronic systems. The Greater London Returning Officer decided to have a manual count, which was a significant change. Took 2 days at Excel for us to count the votes there. We then moved in, unfortunately, obviously we had a by-election due to the death of a member, Councillor Hills, and between then and the Prime Minister announcing a snap general election, one which I think we weren't really planning for at that particular time of the year. We knew it was coming up, and I think we were all expecting it to be, I think we were told the second half of the year, and it was just about in the second half of the year, but certainly a snap election, not one I think that we expected to be at the particular time it was. As the report says, it was one of the shortest time periods between the announcement and polling day itself that we had to arrange all the polling stations, all of the staffing, approximately 1,000 staff we have to recruit None of them would have known the date before that, so obviously you're dealing with people who might be interested, might be working for us, but will be called away on family emergencies and medical issues and holidays, and those people need to be replaced and retrained, and those who do need to be trained in the new processes that we had. Probably the most important one was the introduction of voter ID in polling stations. I would probably say it's the biggest change in the electoral process in generations. The fact that people had to produce a particular type of photo ID before they could be issued a ballot paper on the day. We then moved, say, after the GLA elections and the general election, with that onto 3 further by-elections later after that. One thing I'll say about the general election actually is for the first time in generations we've actually run 3 parliamentary constituencies. Due to boundary changes across the country, all of the parliamentary constituencies were redrawn, and the way that they were drawn up by the Independent Boundary Commission for England were that the majority of those 3 constituencies were in Royal Greenwich, and so we ran those, leading to a count which was the biggest count we've ever delivered, and we certainly used every single scrap of space I could find in the Waterfront Leisure Centre to make sure the count was conducted as quickly and efficiently as possible, and I think we delivered that on the night. Significantly more, over 220,000 electors in those 3 constituencies. And I say 3 further by-elections later on in the year, and then into a review of all of our EU voters, all our EU citizens living in the borough registered, then had to undertake a process to review their registration, which we successfully completed at the end. And that's the end of the elections year, which is all contained in the report.
If I could, Chair, just to put on thanks formally, my thanks to the team for working relentlessly and showing a huge amount of resilience last year. The elections didn't, of course, finish for the elections team once the count was complete, the returns and the like to be completed. So I would just like to formally, through the Chair, put my thanks on the record for the team.
Thank you, and I want to also record our thanks. I read the report in R. I didn't really realize the enormous work that goes into. I wasn't even thinking of the number of elections, but when I read this report, I just want to say thank you because it's a lot, and the turnaround and how you've managed it so well. I think we need to put that on record as well. The only thing, one little thing I would have loved to see in the report, because I think the stats were great in terms of the voted numbers. I would have loved to see some numeric things on finances, and I know that's reported elsewhere. I know it's early in the report, but I'm actually making a recommendation for future report is to include some of the numbers as well. I think he did mention the cost of the by-election, cost of the election, and the contribution which we receive from government. I think sometime it would be nice to have some numbers in there, but I'll just open it to members for question. But well done, Councillor Saldin.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit self-conscious about going going first for the second time this evening. I just wanted to congratulate you and your team again, James. I wish you a quiet 2025, a well-earned quiet 2025. Phenomenal effort, and as someone who campaigned and was at a number of the returns, the amount of work and organisation that goes in, I think if you haven't seen it, you're going to underestimate it. So yeah, very big congratulations. But seeing as you're going to have such a quiet 2025, fingers crossed, one question I did have, and this is a bit obscure, but alphabetical bias in ballot order presentation. And I say this as someone whose surname appears on the 19th position in the alphabet, sitting next to someone who, depending on whether she uses a V or a B, will either appear second or much further down. Yeah. A lot of the information does seem to suggest that, in particular, where you've got multiple candidate elections, that the candidates higher up the alphabet do tend to get elected first. Is this something we've ever considered as Greenwich, maybe using a randomised order on the ballots? Just at the start, say 0 to 26, we're going to do 19 first, for instance, and then all the other numbers afterwards. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor. And first of all, for your first point, I would definitely like to say, to share my thanks to my team as well. My team are absolutely excellent, and I would not be able to, we would not be able to deliver those elections without the team. The team, will work all the hours needed to do the job, and I really commend them completely for what they've done, including my deputy Ruth Lawson, who's taken well-earned retirement, and thanks to the rest of the team as well, who've done excellent work. On your question, yes, academically, it is shown that there is alphabetical bias. Mr. Arvark will generally beat Mr. Zebedee if all other things being equal. But we cannot do anything here in the borough because the makeup of a ballot paper is in legislation. It is strictly in legislation. I will look at the surname order, and I have to go exactly by the surname. So people can have a commonly used name, but it would have to be a name that they were commonly known by, and I'd use that instead of their ordinary, their legal name, if that was the case for certain people. But once we have that, I produce the statement of persons nominated, and I have to have that in alphabetical order by surname. There are some elections where the party name is used, so in list, although we don't have those because that was European parliamentary elections, which we obviously do not have anymore. But so, for example, next year at the council elections, the candidates will all be listed by surname, strictly alphabetical surname by that order. We can't do anything about that.
If I can come back quickly, Chair, just a slight joke aside before I make a serious point. If we notice you've changed your name by depoll, next time we see you, we'll now know why. But I would just like to put on one other fact on the table as well that I forgot to say at the outset, and it does reflect your earlier comments about the team's achievements and yourself, Councillor Chair, about the finances. We actually achieved everything we did last year with a reduced team. So there was a post cut as part of our MTFS. So again, if I may just get that out there to members, again, it just reinforces why I'm really proud of what the team did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cathy Dowse.
I just wondered, with so many elections over the year, what are the biggest lessons you learned, and would you have changed anything?
Thank you, Councillor. I think my biggest concern was voter ID. I think most of us in electoral administration's concern was voter ID. Obviously that's a political decision about the introduction and going forward. Again, that's a political decision out of our end. I think we worked really well. I worked really well, I think, with the communications team. We did a really good piece of work there. We sent out a letter to every household in the borough before the elections to explain the new voter ID rules, to explain to quite a few people their polling stations had changed, where that was, and give an opportunity to apply for a postal vote, because those who don't have voter ID can have a postal vote now instead. And that's been opened up now. There's a new government portal where people can apply online now, rather than having to fill in forms that we send them. So I think some of the learnings, I think that was successful, and so I would like to repeat that. It's called a household notification letter in the spring prior to the election itself, the kind of before poll cards go out. So I think that was something that I think was successful, so we'll continue doing. I think the number of we did some additional work on postal voting and to make sure we get postal votes in during polling day to reduce the time it takes to get all the postal votes in and get them ready for the announcement during the parliamentary election, which is overnight. And I think that was successful. I think we can do more on that in the future. And I think that's it. We are yet, I'm going to go for, because we've had so many elections, we've not really had time to stock take with my team, and I think I will do a piece of work on that prior to next year's elections, both my internal team and the people that work with me at polling stations and the postal votes on that. Gave a lot of information to the candidates and agents during the election, continuously emailing out information and data. That was successful, and I think we'll continue to do that again at future elections.
If I may, Chair, just piggyback on what James said, I think we benefited with voter ID from having seen other councils have to implement it the year before, so we're able to learn from some good practice, and James and the team certainly did that. I'd also like to just highlight something else that I thought the team did really well in the last year, and we need to do more of, which was to accrue email addresses for people who were registered as well, which really enabled us to get the message out to people that was appropriate to make at various election times, and we've accrued tens of thousands of email addresses voluntarily from residents that have enabled us to do that.
Councillor Dowles, any more questions? Just one, you mentioned polling station, and I was thinking of my ward, and I did wonder if you had feedback and comments from people who were not happy in terms of the distance the polling station is from where they live, because I did notice some, in my opinion, I think some discrepancy in terms of where the polling station is, where the residents are living, and I think they would be better off going to another polling station. So I don't know, when do we review that, how often?
Thank you, Chair. There is the statutory periodic review is I think every 5 years or so. So it will be some years now before we have to do that statutorily. But we're very happy to review those more frequently than that. We have quite a few polling stations. I think compared to other local authorities, we have more probably than many others. We're always very happy to review those going forward. Having more polling stations, obviously we do need the venues, and it's difficult to get venues, especially we try and avoid. So we have to avoid those which are inaccessible, and to get those, so we try and get those where it is easy for us to obtain them at short notice. For example, if there's a by-election, so we do look at schools and usually only primary schools and other public buildings, which we are able to obtain free of charge for the running of elections, and where we have the power to mandate their use. Private venues are more difficult because we don't have that power to mandate their use. We have to do that as an election by election negotiation, which is a kind of major piece of our work. But when it comes to the review, we're very happy to review any of the arrangements in any area, and happy to do that. So.
Thank you. I'll probably send that through as a piece of casework, talking about the high end of Shooters Hill that is very difficult to climb. I think maybe sometime it might have put some people off going out to vote, but I'll send that through to you. No other questions, I see none. Just want to say thank you again. So if you could just extend our appreciation to your team. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Will do.
Thank you. And the next item is item number 8. It's the Freedom of Information Monitoring Report. We are asked to consider the as a statutory function. We're asked to consider this report and make recommendation to the executive if necessary. The report will be presented by Sarah Murphy and David White, and members will have an opportunity to ask questions. Over to you, Sarah. Over to you, David.
So the report is on performance in respect of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and the Environmental Information Regulations in 2022 and 2023. Due to the deadline, the initial deadline for the report, the 2024 data wasn't available for inclusion, as we need to allow about 40 working days following the conclusion of the year to allow for the provision of accurate performance data. However, I can inform the panel that FOI performance in 2024 was 85%, while EIR performance was 77%. There has been an upward trend with the number of requests we received since the pandemic, where in 2020 the number of requests fell significantly, and that has continued into 2024 with 2,083 requests received, which is the highest number ever received by the Council. As the report will show, there are some issues in there were some issues in 22 and 23 with FOI performance, particularly in housing and safer communities, and the transport element of communities, environment and central. And we have been working with those directorates to look at how we can improve their processes around FOIs and EIRs to improve that. And we are seeing that in the 2024 figures. There has been no enforcement action by the ICO against the Council. Within the report, there are referenced 3 information tribunals, which is basically the tier after an FOI or EIR complaint goes to the ICO, so where the ICO's decision is being appealed. 2 of those tribunals related to where the requests were designated by the Council as vexatious under the Freedom of Information Act, and the third, which is listed as outstanding in the report, related to the application of exemptions relating to legal professional privilege under the IR. Since the publication of the report, the Information Tribunal has issued its judgment and found in favour of the Council on the remaining outstanding tribunal. So whilst we did have 3 tribunals, on all three tribunals, the tribunals found in favour of the Council. There does seem to have been an uptick generally in tribunals, so I think prior to the 22-23 period, we'd only had, I think, 1 since FOI came in, and then we've had 3 in succession. But I think part of that is that we would put that down to sort of improving how we communicate to requesters around their rights to challenge the Council's decisions when we apply exemptions.
Anything you wanted to add?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Dowles.
So, sorry, can you tell me when in the year we would need to have this to be able to include 2024s? This is quite a long time ago, and I just wondered if we could look at maybe moving this.
Yes, so this time of year would actually be fine. It's just that the report was initially scheduled, I think, for the January meeting. So the deadline we had was December. So we provided this report in December. So I think certainly pre-pandemic, we sort of having it around this time. So with the report being provided in February, it means that we can provide that fairly soon after. The reason for the 40 days is just to explain that is that for requests we get late in the year, and we do get requests sort of right up to sort of midnight on New Year's Eve. Because it's the most you can have for an EIR request is 20 working days extended by 20. It just means then that by the point we get to 40 days gone, if anything's open, it's late by default because the amount of time it has passed. So, but we can certainly pick that up with the scrutiny team to look at how we schedule this in future to make sure we're getting the report a bit closer, so we're getting some more recent data in there.
Obviously, we're now anecdotally looking at, well, not anecdotally, but you know, we don't have the data to ask you about last year. So if we could maybe look at moving the scheduling, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes, and assuming the items included on next year's work programme, certainly I think we can look at the scheduling and then bring back to this committee 24 and 25 at the same time.
Just to say, you can find our performance data on the website. So the 24 data is now been published. So the figures are on there.
Thank you. I've taken what you've said on board. So if we go for a March, April meeting, I think that would work better. And it's partly my fault because the report was ready in January. What I didn't do, I didn't go back to officer to say, can you update? So, you know, they prepared it was ready for January. That meeting was cancelled and we didn't ask for the report to be refreshed. But I've taken on board and it will be later in the municipal year. Councillor Joe Vanderbroek.
Thanks. I've got two questions. There is a link, but I'll keep them separate for the minute. Are you able to let us have any sort of themes of the kind of things that people ask questions about? And I don't mean sort of, you know, what department it's for, but is there such a thing as a few typical FOI questions?
Some of our themes relate to pieces of work that various, you know, departments are working on. Like, for instance, in transportation, the LTNs do cause a number of requests to be received, not just requests, you know, casework as well as complaints. It is sometimes it's driven by work, but sometimes it's driven by what's in the news. It's difficult to say, but we do tend to get some sort of general ones that we receive all the time, like for business rates, anything to do with council tax, those sort of themes, or people are touting for work, you know, agency figures and what types of agencies we use, etc.
Okay, thanks.
And so just to add on to Sarah's point, so with transport ones in particular, it's something where we can quite neatly see sort of correlation between an LTN or similar sort of scheme being announced and then a big increase in FOIs assigned through to transport. So that's part of where we sort of are looking to work with transporters around how we prepare for some of those, because whilst there are some that are going to be unique to specific areas, if there are commonalities where we know we're going to get a request for a particular type of information, is it something where we can sort of prepare for those in advance, either in terms of how we publish information or having some of that information ready for when we get requests. We have also, and it is also worth pointing out as well, that it's not just local issues that drive that. So, for example, since the election in America, we've seen an increase in requests, for example, specifically about DEI schemes that the council operates using that specific wording, albeit in sort of comparatively low numbers, but significantly more than we were getting around EDI prior to the election.
Ooh, that's interesting. I'm really glad I asked that question, although I'm sorry you're getting some of these quite odd things. You've led a bit into my sort of second question, in that given that there are some themes and whether there's, and you did say, David, about, you know, preparing some data when you're expecting it, but given the fact that a lot of the departments are, you know, we're not hitting the targets anywhere close, is there anything that the other departments can be doing to be ready, you know, under certain themes? You know, is there something that keeps coming up with housing and safer communities that if they kept a log of something, they'd be able to answer that quicker, kind of thing?
Yes, so part of the work that we've been doing with housing in particular, I think, is starting to translating through in the 2024 figures when we put back on those, has been around the publication scheme. So there's certain information that under FOI we are required to publish in advance. and publish on our website so it's accessible, and we can use that as a way of publishing other information. So it's something where we do have sort of very regular sort of requests. We've been working with them with services to make sure that we can get that somewhere like that. Then it means then that officers aren't having to spend time pulling those figures together. We can just direct people to a web resource if it's reasonably accessible to that individual, or if it's not reasonably accessible because of particular accessibility requirements that individual has, potentially it's easier then it's still easier to gather and share with them.
Thank you. We just had the digital report, and I'm just wondering if there's anything else that can be done in terms of making the information accessible that will help to reduce some of these FOIs. Maybe that's something that could be, I don't know what work you're doing with Kit's team, but maybe that's something that we could explore if you see like a common theme of things which you think that should be information that is out there to the public, then maybe those recommendations can be made as part of the IT development, or so it could be maybe on our website, maybe a dashboard facility so people can see what they need without having to raise, not saying we don't want to, because the process is there, and if residents want to use it, we encourage them to use it, but it may help to reduce the numbers. So I don't know.
Yeah, as I say, we are working closely with departments, encouraging them to expand on the comms for certain things that come through. So we did think at one time about disclosure logs as well, didn't we? But we didn't think we'd have enough resources to bring that forward. But it might be a discussion we could have with digital services.
No. I wanted to pick up on because the 2024 report is ready. I know I'm not asking you to tell me what's in it, but I wanted to pick up on the time scale, 5.4 of the report, that we are way below the ICO statutory time scale of 90%. Overall, I think we're about 77. That was 2023. Are we much closer to the statutory now, or are we worse?
We're much closer, so we're at 85%.
So there's some improvements. Any other question? No other question? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Sarah. Have a good evening. Thank you. Just before we conclude, I just want to remind members as we wrap up this meeting that we're coming to the end of the municipal year, and members are reminded to submit topics, items, what you want to be part of the work program for 25-26. If you could email those through to myself or to Maya, I think that will be really, really helpful. I'm just thinking, I think that's it for today, actually. We are finished. Have a good evening. Thank you very much.